probably on to the next section. Plugging everything else in. Alright, so I've decided to take off the top and bottom power steering fluid connections from the power steering pump. Alright, so not only is it that one, and this one, it's also attached to this bracket right there. So I decided to take out the expansion tank here because this guy was leaking, basically going up into the expansion tank. So I decided I'm just going to try to replace the O-ring for that instead of the actual entire expansion tank, and hope that works. It wasn't leaking like a ton, but when I was pushing up on it, it was leaking. So that's getting replaced. I drained the coolant, I disconnected, replaced this guy because it was leaking from up here, probably because of an O-ring, but whatever. Next step, I've already loosened my tie rod on the left side. I'm gonna do that. I've measured the distance between the rack and the tie rod in a few different ways, so I can hopefully get it back to where it was after this is all done. But regardless, I am planning on getting the steering rack out next. So here I go. It's exactly 19. And to the other side. Alright, so I apologize in advance for this, or maybe not so much in advance, but I got the new Chase Bay's power steering upgrade kit installed. The reason I don't really have any footage is because my phone was like super short on storage, but I just cleared some up. So as you can see, I took out the radiator fan, replaced the alternator, got the alternator in, put in the new power steering pump. I have the old pulley. I should probably replace it because they're known to kind of crack and break after many years, and this one's really old, but I'll get to that later. It's pretty easy. Obviously, it's easy to access from here. So, new power steering. The other one was super gross, as you can see in the other videos. This one is super clean. It's supposed to keep the temperature even lower and not be nearly as leaky. So as you can see, the line here goes straight down and then all the way, it curls back to underneath the vehicle, right here, that line, and then it connects all the way and hooks back around to this cooler. It gets cooled in that little aluminum bar, and then it comes back out, and then that goes straight up here into yeah, so let's see what I'm talking about. That line comes off of that bar, wraps around, and then goes into the bottom power steering port. Then the top power steering fluid line comes back down to the bottom of the power steering pump. I know the angles aren't great here. But basically it comes back here to the power steering pump. And then on the side of the power steering pump, you have a large line that connects back to the actual reservoir. Okay, I'm gonna do a repair video on this diesel valve. When I took mine out, my pin is obviously still in, but then as I was cleaning it off, because it was covered in so much grime and dirt, the flapper just totally snapped. There's a really light pop, and now it just flaps around aimlessly, but in reality it should always be trying to close. So this is a nice aluminum piece with a actual metal, what would you call it, arm. Metal arm that actually plugs in here, so it's a lot less likely to just break and shear off, like the old one did. I can put a little video of that here. And this one is working well. It's nice and snappy. So I'm gonna start reassembling the air box and get around to finally plugging in all of the new wires and plugging everything back into where it needs to go.